Welcome everyone to Finding Hermes. I hope you're ready to walk through some doors with the god Hermes and lay your cards on the table, and we shall too, as we always do here. With us, we have the pleasure of having Sam Tripoli. Sam, how are you? And thanks for coming on.
Miguel, thanks for having me on. Now when I do Zoom meetings, I have to put like a letter or something over my side because I'll just stare at myself the whole time in the Zoom because
Oh yeah.
I'm just a little weird like that. But thanks for having me on, man. I always love having you on Tinfoil Hat, and you always knock it out of the park. So I appreciate you having me on your show.
Oh yeah, it's always fun talking to you, and I'm with you. Looking at myself or listening back to interviews, I'm like, I don't want to hear my voice.
Yeah,
my family agrees; they don't want to hear my voice either.
It is incredibly hard as a comedian because the key to doing comedy is just like repetition, but also learning what you do right and what you do wrong. And I cannot hear myself talk. It drives me nuts. So it's so hard, man. It's like really hard because you got to sit down and go, okay, I messed that word up. So yeah, I get it, dude. I get it.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. I wanted to talk to you about humor. I don't know if you ever watch a movie with Tom Hanks called Punchline. Probably very few. Sally Fields. I loved it because
in the day. Yeah.
Dark humor. But there's one scene where I don't know if it's Sally Fields or somebody asking her, well, why do you always telling jokes and shit? And his answer is because I take everything so seriously. Is that what humor is to you, or how has humor helped you cope throughout the years?
Well, it's very interesting because we're supposed to be clowns, but we're so sensitive and we're super serious people. And we're trying to make everybody laugh, but same time, we're always demanding respect. It's a very complex enigma being a stand-up comic. You know what I'm saying? It's just such an interesting way to live, man. That's why there's a lot of drug and alcohol abuse in there, because the highs are so high and the lows are so low. And it's just man, it's like, and there's also this constant battle between what stand-ups think they're doing and what audiences and people in society want them to do, because a lot of stand-ups would be lead singers in rock bands if they could sing, right? They kind of want that love and respect, but then the crowd, there's a lot of people that think stand-up comedy is just really just like patty cakes, and they don't understand it. Like sometimes, like we use humor to shed light on situations, but they take it as being disrespectful, talking down, or and they don't believe. They have this belief that if you do a joke about someone, that automatically means you look down on them. That's not true. So it's this constant battle between what is the intent of the joke between the comic and the crowd.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I respect stand-up comedians. I mean, you're talking about a rock star. A rock star is just creating a piece of art and just sending it out there. But with a stand-up comedian, there is some interaction. You are in a symbiotic relationship with your audience at all times, right? I mean, you're united, and you got to be pretty vulnerable, but still act like you're not vulnerable, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing. It's like kind of in the middle between rock star and cult leader in a weird way. In that, the key to comedy is getting this entire group of people that don't know each other, maybe besides tables, but for most part, strangers, all to think in the exact same way. And that's why the great comics just talk in a rhythm, whether it's Sam Kinison, which seems like it's screaming, but it is his rhythm. And that's how you get people to think like that. So it is a very vulnerable, it's super naked. It is the one art that you cannot learn on your own. Like I could learn guitar by myself. I could learn to sing by myself. I could learn to paint by myself. I could learn the podcast by myself, but I cannot learn stand-up comedy by myself. I have to get in front of the audience, and that makes it it's the most amazing art, because you are learning to become a Jedi in a weird way, because you're playing mind tricks on people, tweaking of tiny words. But it's also very limited too, because I have to, the only result or the biggest result is laughter. So I am limited to how far the crowd's willing to go with me. So that's kind of sometimes I think about going on like a just a one-man show, because even though I don't know, your show's not necessarily a conspiracy show, but we're kind of in that alternative realm place. And sometimes it's like we're doing some deep dives on stuff that people need to digest. And that's why when you're in a comedy club, it's very hard to go that deep on the stuff. But man, it is an interesting journey. And how long does it take to become a doctor? 10, 15 years? That's literally how long it takes to become a really good comic. A couple people come out of the womb killing it, like Pablo Francisco or Nick Swartz, and those guys are like 20 years old, and we're killing. But most people, it takes a decade and a half to really master the art.
And do you think stand-up comedians beyond the pandemic are a dying breed, or where do you see this craft going to? I mean, we live in again this politically correct times and cancel culture and all that stuff.
Here's the whole thing. There's going to be a split between the scene. There'll be corporate comedy, and then there'll be going kind of the underground, which is kind of what you see in music, right? I mean, in music, you see you go to a music festival, you go see the top band, but there's like 10 bands below them. Most of them haven't heard, but they got a giant following. That's where comedy's going. It's like I work very hard on podcasting because I have a skill set built for it. And I always used to say this joke that nobody would laugh at, but I always loved it. It was like, what if you're the Michael Jordan of something that hasn't been invented yet? And because it hasn't been invented, you're just a lazy ass that sits on the couch all day because your skill set, if you're the greatest interdimensional hide and go seek player of all time, but because that technology doesn't exist, you have no way to shine. Well, comedically, that's kind of in a weird way was happening to me because my skill set didn't have a way to kind of shine and amplify. But now through podcasting, paywalls, and all that stuff, I've been really able to shine. So I have a pirate ship, Miguel, and occasionally I like to raid some motherfuckers. So I don't care. Like if you tell me there's a joke I can't do, I will write 5 jokes, 10 jokes on that and do all those jokes. Obviously, you don't want to drift into hate speech. And there are words that will incite certain reactions. But I'm also somebody that's like, I'm a guy who makes a living talking, and there's issues that are super delicate, and I feel like I have the need to talk about them. So, like with the M word, I won't say it obviously, but I have a joke about being called the M word by Paul Mooney, who pretty much copyrighted the word N word, right? He was known for saying it. And sometimes even when I say that on stage, people get weirded out, but it's a real story that happens. And that's the fine line you have to walk when you do stand-up comedy, because for me, dude, in this day of podcasting and the internet, authenticity now is the currency that people are looking for.
Yeah, and I love what you're doing, that intersection of comedy and the occult and conspiracy, which brings me to my next question is, why do we use laughter? I mean, I know me, I'll overthink shit too much, and maybe it's great when you just chop me down and just keep it simple, as Bill W. would say. But in ancient times, the jester was the only one who could make fun of the king.
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Because the king needed an ego check and to be shown that everything was temporal. The life is kind of absurd, so the king wouldn't take himself seriously and be a better king. Is that why we use humor to realize life is kind of absurd?
Well, it's like I used to be I'm a huge Bill Hicks fan, and I used to, we all get influenced, and I was doing that. And then I realized there's this kind of thing where it's like people want to learn, but they also want to be entertained. And so if you just have somebody up there all the time shouting at them, they're like, I didn't come here to get lectured. But, a spoonful of sugar makes a mess and go down, right? If you can make people kind of, laughter loosens people up and they kind of have fun. But then it's like get them laughing, slip them the truth. That to me is the big thing to do. And that's what podcasting is. And that's kind of like, I have this new show called Cash Daddies. It's a investment show for the internet rich, right? And all the most investment shows are very dry. I'm like, let's have fun. Let's just talk crazy like we're guys at the bar and see how it goes. And it's already starting to resonate with people. And that's kind of what I think happened with Tinfoil Hat, is that I entered into a genre of some wonderful people that are delivering some very heavy messages. And I was able to create this kind of thing that, I make no illusions of what Tinfoil Hat is. It is the it's the kiddie pool. It's the shallow end of the pool. It is the training wheels. And that's done purposely to get the help kind of beginners kind of stick their toe in the pool of truth and the occult and ancient knowledge. Like when you came on, you talk about Abraxas. I call him the chicken snake god. That helps people kind of take that in and have fun with it, instead of like being like trying to digest everything and then just kind of having it like it's some heavy topics I could talk about, you could talk about, that can start weighing on you too. If you get so into what is being talked about, it could really weigh down your soul. So I think having fun with it lets people digest it, while at the same time, not like just getting depressed about the world.
Yeah, you're right. Regardless, you go down those rabbit holes of these, and your mind will crack. I mean, it's the whole idea of gnosis. You see the horror of the universe, but you still love it and embrace it. Laughter will help you. And it reminds me of this quote from Oscar Wilde that goes, if you want to tell people the truth, make them laugh. Otherwise, they'll kill you. And I think that's it. People, you got to get them to laugh, because that people don't want facts in this age.
Well, it's like in prison. The guy who makes people laugh tends to get stay around a little longer. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I guess we're all like, this is like a prison planet, right? And the people making people laugh can deal with the realm that we're in. And that's kind of always like when I was a kid, I almost got my ass kicked a bunch of times, and kind of making people laugh saved my ass 1,000 times in high school. And
what about, go ahead.
Well, that's just the coping. Humor is a defense mechanism for sure.
And for us, I mean, humor was a way we dealt with the trauma, dealt with our addiction. And sometimes I would say humor was a way I wouldn't face my addiction or my trauma. Do you ever feel that way? Sometimes I had to take things seriously because I was always being such a wise ass, even when I was, close to being suicidal, high on. It's like I went too far.
Well, like when you go into recovery stuff, I think the greatest thing you learn very quickly is you can still have fun in recovery. And that, it's not like a tight-wadded button-up group. We're not a glum lot. And I think that's very important, one of the biggest shows in LA once a year is a thing called Yuckaholics. And these really great comics from like 20, 30 years ago put together a show to help raise money for rehabs and to help like newcomers just know you can have fun. It's like, I don't know how dirty we can get on this show, but it's like when you walk in to a room and there's people who shot heroin in their dick, they're not going to get offended by jokes. You know what I'm saying? They're going to have a laugh. And, I do those recovery shows for free, but man, if you could make a living just entertaining these what a wonderful place to be. I mean, not only are you doing good, but you're able to, take care of yourself financially. I do them for free, but man, there's nothing better than recovery shows.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, it is true. I remember the days where, when you first start going to AA or rehab, you're like, shit, my life is over. I'm just going to stay sober till the day I die because can't go to bars, can't do this. And then I remember seeing Pink Floyd Wasted twice, and then seeing Roger Waters sober. No comparison. Seeing Roger Waters sober was just awesome. And then just going home and going to bed. What a concept.
I love sleeping, dude. I'm 48, dude. My body many years ago through a coup and overthrew the dictator. So my life wasn't about women all the time and chasing ass and all that. And now I can kind of sleep and enjoy it. I just had 2 kids. So stick a fork in me, I'm done. And some people might get sad about that, but I'm like, this is the most free I've ever been in my life, man. For me, dude, it's like, I remember going to meetings and hearing people tell their story and everyone laughing at how ridiculous they were high. And that let me be like, wow, I'm out around I'm vibing with my tribe, I've been robbed by the same hooker twice in one day. I've gone to jail buying drugs off a trans hooker and getting laughed at by the cop because she ripped me off on the drug deal. I've done coke all night and didn't realize till I got a call an hour before the show that I was doing a charity event for the LAPD and I was gacked out of my skull. Like, these are the places that I put myself. So a newcomer hears these stories and it kind of lets them know it's going to be all right, and that's kind of why I think we have fun in our sobriety. I remember the first joke I ever wrote sober, and it was such a relief off my chest because there's this illusion that people think that you have to be high to be artistic. And I never believed that. I just thought after I wrote this joke that you were being artistic. You just happened to be high at the moment, inspiration hit you. So the first joke I ever wrote was about how fast zombies are now in movies, right? Like, back in the day, the old black and white movies, they were moving like your grandma trying to get a pinch. Give grandma a kiss. Give your grandma a kiss, right? These zombies now, they run like 4.340s, right? They're just like hauling ass. So, I remember when I wrote that joke and it got a huge laugh. I was like, okay, man, I'm actually can be creative without polluting myself. And then, now just all I do is write. And I just, being sober, I've taken the chains off my head and my brain just constantly going. So that's why I do like 9 podcasts, because my brain it's either like at some point I realize I talk to myself anyways. I might as well just put a camera in front of me and record it because I'm going to be doing it anyways, which is a big reason why I ended up polluting myself, was because I couldn't turn my brain off. So now with the beauty of the internet, I can just channel that energy into podcasting and all that stuff.
And how are you doing with Zoom AA meetings? I hate them with a passion. I believe in the fellowship, being in the same room. So I've been happy, and I've been rebelling against AA. Completely stupid and infantile, but still, I just hate Zoom AA meetings.
You know what, man? I love in meetings too, but when meetings are live, I would always come up with a reason why. Oh, dude, it's 10 minutes to the meeting. I can't make it.
Oh, yeah.
Damn, I want to. But now every day at 6 p.m. I have 7 days a week. I have a meeting, and it's pretty much the same guys every time. On Sundays is like this big meeting, and that I'm honored to be a part of. I don't know if you ever lived in LA, but West Side Recovery is just so amazing. You go to Hollywood, it's great too, but it's always like young, shiny objects, and which are great to stare at. I mean, the blessings are, it's like great, but I do a men's stag and I can focus, and I just enjoy it. So Zoom's been belly good to me in the sense that I have, I have no excuse now. Like, jump on the meeting and I could sit there, and, I can't wait till meetings come back so we could be in the presence of each other, because I think that's very important. And to me, this is kind of part of the psychological warfare that's going on with us, not having human contact. But I'll take Zoom while I can, and I'm very blessed to be in the group that I am. I'm very happy with it.
Awesome. And speaking of the pandemic, when it hit, how did you have to change anything about your spiritual life or your mental life? Because it was a big hit when it happened. March of 2020 and all the insanity. How did you have to pivot, or did you have to rearrange things inside your soul, Sam?
Oh, well, it's very interesting, dude. So, I was living check to check till I was about 43 years old, and then over the last couple of years, I've been blessed that I started this show at the Comedy Store. It was just right time, right place. It was called Comedy Chaos, and we were selling out the main room, 370 people twice a night on Tuesday, every other Tuesday. So and we were selling them out, and so I was starting to cook with gas, and I always had this I never understood, cutting corners when it comes to taking care of people. So I always felt, man, if you take care of people, they'll run through a brick wall for you. So we were cooking with gas, and then March hit, and that all went away. So I was watching television, man, and I'm a conspiracy theorist. I say it with pride, and I was just watching that everything was like pandemic, BLM, Antifa, riots, blah, blah, and it was just nonstop that now. And I was just like, I just couldn't take it anymore. All this social justice stuff. And so I'm like, if I'm going crazy over this, I bet my listeners are going crazy over it. So I started doing 3 times a week shows. But then when you're grinding on that all the time and you're in that kind of world of what are these elites doing to everybody? You can start losing it. So I'd want to do a couple spiritual episodes, but then I couldn't, they just weren't getting the numbers, but they were really resonating with me. So Rockfin, this website I'm on, hit me up and they're like, please do an exclusive show. I'm like, I've been really wanting to do this show called Zero. I'll do it there. And it's very weird to do a spiritual show that you got to pay. They got a Netflix model. It's like $10. You get everybody's premium content. But I'm like, I don't have the time to do it. And they want it. And I just had 2 baby girls. At 47 years old, I had 2 twin girls. It's the best blessing of my life. Awesome. I'm so blessed. But obviously that involves money and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to, I'll do it. And I just started going down these I just started going down these kind of spiritual rabbit holes, having you on, having Matt LaCroix on, having this Von Galt Buddhist author on. I just started seeing that there was this bigger thing, and it was really, really helping me kind of deal with what was going on, that there's this bigger thing. And just going through and then meeting all these people having afterlife, after death experiences, multiple life experiences. I go, okay, there's something more. And for some reason, I just it all just all washed away. And I just never really cared about anything going on. I did get caught in the political stuff for a little while. Not so much that Trump was a good guy or these guys are bad. I think they're all crime bosses and they're just different crime organizations. But I kind of was feeling for the children, for these countries that were bombing. But then I realized I'm just putting my energy in this. And the only way I could help anybody is by focusing on myself. So that's kind of how I've dealt with the pandemic, was really looking inside and not getting lost in the reality show that is Washington, D.C. or Hollywood, and just kind of pulling out and just focusing on me and my family.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I did. I went inward. I expanded my spiritual horizons and try not to take the illusion out there. But at the same time, you and I have been very fortunate. Obviously, our recovery and our spiritual constitution, that, thank God, our sponsors and our teachers helped us out. We pivoted to the right corners instead of the other way. At the same time, there are people hurting big time. Alcoholism, suicide, overdoses are just shooting up the roof. Do you have advice for people who might be suffering today? I'm sure people reach out to you like, Sam, man. I'm sinking here. Help.
All the time, man. All the time. I've got, I do cameos. I got people asking for that kind of advice. And, it's like, for me, man, I just really I look into Loosh and that whole way of thinking about this group of people that are just stealing our negative energy. Don't go to bed angry. There's reason these are kind of cliches because they're true. And it's there's this just group of people that are just trying to live off our pain and suffering. Like people like Bill Gates, I just think they're lifetime actors playing a LARPing role. Not that he's not rich or not that he isn't part of these groups, but I think they pushed him forward kind of to play this Lex Luthor type guy that they program us to think about. That, you know, there's an evil billionaire who wants to destroy the world, and here comes Jeff Bezos, here comes, you know, Bill Gates, that just fit that. And we can all just, we don't even think twice about it. We just like evil guy. And then there's some people like great guy. It's just like craziness. Like for me, man, it's just like all I have to say is the law of attraction is like there is no reality. There's only perception, and what you perceive becomes your reality. And it's your thoughts. And like, you know, just things I've learned in recovery, which is like sit down at the end of the day, be thankful for all the good stuff that happened. You know, in the morning, like, what are you thankful for? At night, just like thankful that you made it through the day sober. And it's like not changing your perspective. Like I caught myself being super negative, you know. At some point in LA, I realized that I was becoming my father, and I love my father to death. But it's like this old saying in recovery, you can't be an example, be a warning, right? And that's like, I learned from my father. It's like I was turning into him and making the same kind of mistakes. And, you know, getting into spirituality with like the energy you put out is the energy you get back. And all that stuff. It's like, it's just the truth, man. And if there's a million things going on, if you focus on the positive stuff, it's amazing how your energy changes. And that's all I got to say, man. It's like, you know, as crazy it is, man, if you're struggling with stuff, start looking at YouTube videos about positive thinking, positive energy, change your perspective. There is no reality. There is only perception. A million things are going on. What you focus on becomes you. And just like there's soul suckers, I'm not saying cut everybody out your life. I really hate the saying stick with the winners. I hate it because sometimes when you do that, you might find yourself in a shark tank and you don't know if you're a shark or you're a chum. And I've seen people just eating up and spit out. So hang out with the ones that love you. And sometimes they're flawed, but everybody's flawed. So my whole thing is just stick with the people who love you, stick with the positivity, and listen, this too shall pass. And in terms of suicide, I talk to people that I sense going through stuff, and I go, here's the thing, man, you're here to learn some lessons. If you kill yourself, you basically you basically didn't honor the contract, and you have to come back and do it all over again. You know, for me, man, what you and I are doing right here, this to me is like the internet and YouTubing and I don't even care. OnlyFans, whatever it is, man, whatever you got to sell, the internet is the new Main Street. And YouTube, even though it's kind of going crazy now, but YouTube, you know, Patreon, Rockfin, all these things are like, it's like these are the Underground Railroad to financial and career freedom. And I don't care. You don't have to be entertaining. There's a million things you can do on the internet. And you just got to figure out what is your house. I mean, what is your store? It's not brick and mortar anymore. It's internet. It's virtual. What can you do? And people go, not everybody can get 1,000, 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I go, the ones who try can. It's all possible, man. And there is a niche, and you just got to look into it. And the difference between the haves and the have-not are the haves tried. And that's why, you know, I had a cousin who was almost murdered like a year ago. And she had nobody around her to talk to her about how to change your perspective in life. Because if you do this, man, if you stop looking at the negative, you search for the positive in everything, and you just let it go. Just let it go, man. For me in my life, man, you know what I do? I have 3 simple words that help me deal with chaos. And they are be Denzel Washington. That's what I do. Be Denzel Washington. Every time he's in a movie, man, I know they're movies, but if you watch him, everything he does is he keeps cool, calm, collected, and he disengages the situation. He brings the energy down. He doesn't feed into it, make it crazy. And that's kind of how I live my life right now. You know, I have some people in my life who just like to wail away on me, and I just let it go, dude. Rope a dope that, rope a dope it, let them get it out. Because when I feed energy into it, it just makes the matter worse. And that's kind of how I live my life right now.
Awesome. Great advice. I love the Denzel Washington, except I was thinking of Denzel Washington in the movie Flight. So it's like,
What do you do in Flight? I can't remember.
That was the one where he's a drug addict pilot and he flies the plane.
But he lands the plane, right?
Yes, he
lands the plane.
Even when he's coked up, he's pretty cool. He's a cool customer.
he lands the plane, and that to me is the most important part. And it's like, and you know, that's my kind of how I see life. It's like a plane ride, a flight, and there's always going to be turbulence, but most of the time, if not almost every time, the plane lands. So you just got to ride it out, right? And stop like eternalizing everything. Turn off the television, turn off the news, get off of, so I've
seen you cut down on Twitter big time. You even announced you're like, no.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I had to get a second phone. I just bought it off a friend of mine who had an extra one, and I put my social media on there. That's my Twitter, my Instagram, because Instagram's like terms of agreement, like they can just mine everything off your phone. So I'm like, nah, not today. So I have nothing on this except for social media. And then I don't take it anywhere with me. And I got a flip phone.
I like that.
I'm about to get off a flip phone. I'm about to get on a flip phone. This will be my crypto phone. This will be my social media phone. And either sell the two meet. And I'm just going to, because I have my phone just like is constantly ringing all the time. And I'm like, I can't focus on just being in the moment and breathing and spending time with my daughters. So I'm going to be that old guy. Being a dad is great. It's like no pressure, bro. No pressure. I'm going to have a flip phone like a crazy drug dealer.
That's awesome. Love it. And to end, Sam, I wanted to ask you, we're talking about Denzel Washington, great performance. What are some of your favorite comedians or actors who were alcoholics, who either made it or did not make it, or why their stories really resonated with you? I think Philip Seymour Hoffman still bugs me because he had so many years of sobriety. It's like, if it happened to him, I am not safe. And it's 7 years without heroin or more.
And it can hit you. And heroin's work. I mean, like, I'm so happy I got a game with fentanyl and coke, man. Dude, drug dealers have to be the worst business people in the world, right? Like, they're the only ones who kill off their customers. It's like, I don't understand that, dude. It's like, what are you doing, man? It's imagine if every time you went and got a hamburger, somebody died. Nobody go get hamburgers. But for some reason, it's like, fuck, I hope it's not fentanyl. You know? I've decided that the only reason people like coke is because chicks let you get weird on it. That's the only reason, right? They're like, whatever, do whatever you want. I love coke. You're like, fuck, man. Like, I had a sex addiction and I had a fucking drug addiction. They were like tag team champions. I used to do blow or speed, just set the high score on Pornhub, and you'd have those fucking coke birds just you're a loser. You know?
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah, I hated it. I hated it.
Look out the window like, oh my god, people are going to work. Robert
Downey Jr. You know, and some of them aren't even the famous guys. You know, I think fame. I think you get into this because you're like, I want to be the greatest comic ever, and that involves fame, and then you realize that's miserable. Like, everybody knows, like, super rich it just seems angry at the world. I think just be happy. And I have a lot of friends who are sober. They don't do drugs, and they're just happy people, man. I mean, you know, sometimes sobriety, the only thing you get out of sobriety is sobriety. And like, that's fine. I mean, like, it's not perfect life. You get problems, but the difference is now you learn how to deal with the problems.
Amen, and agree with you 100%. Well, that's awesome. Well, before we go, where can people find out more about you, Sam? Of course, I'll have it in the show notes.
Well, my website is almost done, but it's samtripoli.com.
Oh, yeah, it was under construction the other day when I was.
Yeah, it's almost done. I'm finally done. Like, I'm just going decentralized, bro. I'm like, I think I'm about to I think I'm about to pull tinfoil hat off of YouTube because they just keep giving me like strikes. Like they gave me a strike on a twerking in politics video I do. Like I do a video where I take like Instagram twerking videos and then I just give I give political speeches about like what's going on in the world because it's meant to be like what the news is going to be in the future, right? And they gave me
like
a
mystery science theater for twerking or something.
Yeah. So I get this guy. I put in 18 picture from the 1800s. I found some guy from the 1800s, and I did like I was able to find a way to make his mouth move like I'm talking, and I put this black and white picture over some hot chick twerking. And YouTube dinged me for a twerking video. It's like, just put in twerking YouTube and it's millions of videos. So they're coming after me. And I normally wouldn't care, but it's like, I'm also a stand-up comic and I like to put my specials on YouTube.
Right.
So that's kind of why I'm going to do it. So I'm going to move everything to, samtripoli.com. I have a podcast called Zero. It's on Rockfin. It's a spiritual podcast. I just started a new podcast called Cash Daddies, and that's a comedic financial investment show for the internet rich because like I just started making money and I don't know anything about investing. So I started doing that. And then I have a popular podcast called Punch Drunk Sports. So any of those, just put Sam Tripoli in and have fun. And I just appreciate you having me on my show. Like you really opened our eyes to breakfast to chicken snake God. And everybody loves him, dude. Everybody loves the breakfast to chicken snake God. They bring it up. Everyone's like, hail shape-shifting Jesus and the chicken snake God.
That's probably where you're getting strikes. Well, that's awesome. Well, Sam, thank you very much for coming on Finding Hermes. And as always, I look forward to the next time we'll interact out there.
Anytime, all the time. We'll chop it off soon, my brother. So thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And there you have it. A great interview with Sam Tripoli. I always enjoy interacting with him. And as always, I hope you got a tool or more, a tool or two, the band tool, whatever, for your toolbox. I love some of his themes. Certainly love B. Denzel Washington. And it makes sense. There is something magnetic and present about Denzel Washington, how his personality always takes over the film. You don't see that very often. You'd have to look at individuals like Gary Cooper or Clint Eastwood for that sort of power. And as I kind of mentioned, it does have to do with his personality. It's almost like his authentic self is always there through any movie. There is an inner Denzel Washington throughout the plot. And it doesn't matter what he has to go through, what trials and tribulations happen to him. He's going to be this Denzel Washington-ness at the end of the film. And I think that's a great lesson because each one of us has an authentic self, a true, powerful, magnetic, charismatic, and destined self that we can have and go through the trials and tribulations of our lives, the story of our lives. So one of many good ideas or insights that Sam brought to the table. Obviously, the main one is the healing power of laughter and humor. These are obviously coping skills. They are a way of remaining detached from the material flows of life. And they're certainly a way to keep your eyes open to the absurdity that is life, that is existence, that is everything around us, to keep a sense of perspective of how small we are in the grand scheme and how we can simply thrive in this awesomeness and this awe and horror that is the entire universe. So, yes, it's almost paradoxical. Be the hero like Denzel Washington, but know how small you are in the world and have some fun with it. I like this quote by Charlie Chaplin. To truly laugh, you must be able to take your pain and play with it. I also like this quote from Mel Brooks that exemplifies what Sam spoke about and what I'm talking about right now. It goes, Humor is just another defense against the universe. Amen to that. And you can connect it to this quote that I often say in Aeon Bite from, the Cheshire Cat, what the Cheshire Cat told Alice, and that is, imagination is the only weapon in the war against reality. Imagination and humor, you'll be fine. Be like Denzel Washington. And it should be mentioned, too, that one of the reasons I always liked the Gnostics was how they leveraged parody, puns, and humor in their texts. Some of them are pretty acid and pretty polemic, pushing back against the orthodoxy of the time, sometimes against other Gnostic groups. But the Gnostics certainly had that Joker-esh kind of attitude when it came to dealing with the world, and something I admire them for. It's interesting that when you look at the New Testament, one thing you notice is Jesus is very serious in those texts. He doesn't laugh once. He's a very serious guy, and I have a feeling that wasn't an accident. That was sort of, whoever put these texts together knew that taking out the joy and humor and laughter out of the world might be a good idea for whatever control they wanted. On the other hand, when you look at the Gnostic Gospels and other Apocrypha, you'll see a very different Jesus. This Jesus likes to dance like he does in Acts of John with his apostles in the Last Supper. He hangs out with women in a very friendly way. He kisses Mary Magdalene on the mouth. He's just, as Jeff Kripal said in his book, The Serpent's Secrets, he's a man's man. He's quite the dude. And he certainly laughs a lot. He laughs in the Gospel of Philip. He laughs in the Apocalypse of Peter. He laughs in the Gospel of Judas. Sometimes it's sort of a comforting laugh, like in the secret book of John, when the apostle John is all sad and depressed, and Jesus sort of chuckles to help him out, get out of the mood. Sometimes it's a very nasty, mocking laugh, like in the Gospel of Judas, where he laughs at the apostles because they are sacrificing to Yaldi-Baldi, to the demiurge. But, again, I really like the Gnostic Jesus because he's always laughing. Not always laughing, but he laughs when he has to laugh, and I hope you do too. This also reminds me of, there is a text, or more like it's a magical papyri, called the 8th Book of Moses. It has nothing to do with Moses, but it's a scroll or a papyri full of incantations, but it also has a cosmology. In this cosmology, Abraxas is associated with the God above God, the ultimate consciousness. And it's interesting because how he brings creation is through laughter. He laughs and matter and the oceans are separated. He laughs and the logos is created. He laughs and all these spirits and angels come out. So it's almost like when the supreme consciousness begins to emanate and understand itself in all its aspects and potentials, Abraxas already knows that this is, it's a little bit absurd. It's a little bit funny, as Elton John would sing, and he's going to just have a good time with it. So yes, in the 8th Book of Moses, Abraxas laughs. And to end, and I hope you've enjoyed this Finding Hermes with Sam Tripoli, I'm going to play the audio version of the last episode in The Young Pope, Season 1. In it, he's out in, I think, St. Peter's Square, and he's talking about an individual, Juanita, that's going to be canonized. And Juanita describes who God really is and what God should be. In a hint, as a hint, being divine has to do with laughter. And I think you'll enjoy this clip, and I think you'll get, again, where you should go in your evolution into a more divine being. So here is that quote from the young Pope. And again, Thanks for being here. I hope you can go through the doors you need to go. I hope you lay down all your cards on the table, and we can have a little more laughter in this world with Hermes, the god of thieves, and Sophia, the goddess of smugglers, as I say often in the podcast.
God does not allow himself to be seen. God does not shout. God does not whisper. God does not write. God does not hear. God does not chat. God does not comfort us. And all the children asked her, "Who is God?" And Juana replied, "God smiles." And only then did everyone understand.